Are you feeling overwhelmed about moving to a new state with family? Oh, I totally get it. You have no idea what to expect. Your kids don't want to leave their friends. Maybe you're moving your parents and they don't want to stop volunteering at the local arts center. But take a deep breath. I've made this checklist just for you because I have been in your shoes before. I moved my family of 6 from Los Angeles to Boise, Idaho. And when we moved, we brought my sister, my niece, and my parents along for the ride. 3 households, 10 people in total, all in various stages of our life. So follow along. I'm going over 8 things you need to know before moving with a family to Boise, Idaho. And honestly, you can use these tips regardless of where you're moving to. I'm almost embarrassed to start with this one because it should be a no-brainer, but I'll say it anyway. Research the area you're moving to. And if you're watching this video, you're already on the right track, so good on you. But I'm also realistic. Sometimes we don't have time to devote months to researching our new home. Or perhaps we're not that enthusiastic about moving to the new place to begin with, in which case we're not researching that city out of denial. Whatever the reason may be, you're going to have questions. And honestly, my #1 tip on researching is to lean into the local expertise of a trusted real estate advisor in that city because they will know questions you don't even think to ask. So I recently had a client who moved to town and she was renting 6 months prior to working with me. She had gone out researching homes on her own, but she was struggling to find any places that felt right. Once I came on board, we found their family home fairly quickly. So when I saw her the other day, I asked what she thought made the difference. And she said that I asked questions her and her husband hadn't thought to ask themselves. And they weren't complex questions, but the answer allowed us to really hone in on what they were wanting as a family rather than just throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what stuck. If you don't move often, you might not know to ask about community dynamics. Does it trend older? Are there kids out on bikes in the summertime? Do they hold community get-togethers? Is there a senior center nearby? Yes, it's great to do the research on your own for sure, but I would absolutely involve that local expert in your research model. It really does simplify the process for you. And part of the research should include schools if that pertains to your family. In a city like Boise or Meridian, there is so much growth happening that new schools are being built all the time and school zones change each year. And it's important to stay on top of that because you may be looking for something particular in a school, whether it's a sports program or a curriculum track. So it's crucial to have somebody local that can keep you abreast of those changes. So that was my only long-winded tip in this checklist. The rest will be more rapid fire. Well, not really because that's not my style, but before I get to the rest of my tips for moving your family to Boise, Idaho, let me introduce myself. I am Erica Toffel, Global Real Estate Advisor with Group 1 Sotheby's International Realty. I specialize in helping you relocate to Boise, Idaho, or any of its surrounding cities from wherever you're moving from. If you need help with any of your real estate needs, reach out. My information is on the screen, and be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified every time I drop a new video. And if you're watching on your television, you can scan the QR code on your screen. Okay, I don't mean to go all crafty on you here, but I would suggest color coding when you pack up your house. When I was packing my family of 6, I was great about writing on the boxes at first, for like the first 3 boxes, and then it all went to hell after that. It was just too frantic. Everything was just kind of piling into boxes. I didn't even want to bother writing kitchen on the box. 7 letters, didn't have time. Besides, I'll have a writing project for you in a later tip. So instead, what I found was way easier was to have a roll of blue tape or a roll of red tape or a roll of yellow tape. And that way I don't have to write on anything. I just stuck a strip of tape on the corresponding box. I took a marker and I made a blue line across it. And I knew when I got to the new house, it was going into the kitchen because it had a blue mark on it. And the best part is that you can involve children who may not be writing or reading yet in the packing process, because now they can take their marker and color the box blue because it's going in the kitchen, or they can color the box orange because it's going to their room. As tempting as it may be to just throw everything into a box if you have room for it, that is a surefire way of not finding it when you get to your new home. I mean, unless you create a box kind of like a catch-all that's like a junk drawer in your kitchen, otherwise stop. Don't pack it in with unrelated items. So I had a client pack up a box of bedding. Because it was light, she placed some important family items in the box in between the blankets. Sure enough, a few weeks later, when she was here and trying to get settled, she couldn't find those very important items. She repeatedly opened up that blanket box, saw that it was bedding, and figured it wasn't in there and moved on. She emptied almost all of her boxes, but because it was summertime, she didn't need to address the box of blankets. But she called me the other day, and because it had finally gotten cold enough, she emptied that box of blankets, and lo and behold, there were the items she was looking for. So you disassemble your beds. If you're really on top of things, you throw all the screws into a plastic baggie and you tape it to the headboard. Then you're moving your stuff around and things get shifted and the tape with the baggie goes missing. Maybe you left it in the truck and you didn't notice until after you'd already returned it to the U-Haul store. Or the moving company never saw it and who knows where it is. Or the baggie ripped and the contents fell out. Whatever the reason might be, it's never where we thought we attached it. So here is what I do. You need to write this stuff out, but you disassemble the bed. Put all of those screws into that baggie. Then you write on a note and you place it in the baggie. Then all those little baggies go into one bucket. That way, when you move your family of 6 beds, they're all disassembled. It's easy to carry the box of screws around with you when you get to your new home. I'd go so far as to leave the tools you may need to disassemble or reassemble those beds in that box. So now it's like you just unpack and go. Shout out to one of my clients who gave me this great tip. But when you are moving your stuff and you will not be in possession of it through the entire move, like for example, you're sending it in a pod or you're sending it with a moving company, stick air tags in a box somewhere in that load so that you can keep track of your stuff wherever it is at any given time. It can get really hectic right before a move. And when we haven't seen our healthcare providers in nearly a year or more, we completely forget to check in with them. And then we get to our new destination and we suddenly realize we're out of prescriptions or we have some sort of medical emergency and we haven't established care with anybody in the new city. So this tip it's kind of twofold. Try and make the time before you leave your current city to obtain healthcare records, or even check in with your healthcare provider to get a refill on prescriptions. So that gives you that buffer when you arrive in the new city. And then the second part, when you first arrive in that new city, I would establish care with a primary care physician or group so that your name is in their system. And then that way, if an issue arises, you're not trying to establish yourself as a new patient in a panic. If I happen to be your agent and you're moving from out of state, when you arrive in your house, you will have essentials there waiting for you: water, toilet paper, paper towels. If I don't happen to be helping you with your home purchase, then make sure you have packed supplies easily available for when you pull up to your house in that new location. Include water, toilet paper, paper towels, and Kleenex. What moving tips would you add to this list? Comment below. And if you have a great packing hack, I would love to hear it. We can often get caught up in the move. We're excited about the new adventure, but then suddenly we're overly tired and we're emotional and we forget that adjustment takes time. As adults, we hopefully have the mechanisms to cope and adjust, but kids are different. Yes, there are those kids that are super resilient and they forge straight ahead into their new school and environment with no fear. But quite often, I will talk to clients a few months into their move who tell me that their children are struggling with the adjustment. But then, almost like clockwork, at the 6th month, they're telling me that their kids love it here. They have great friends and they can't ever imagine moving back. When we move older adults, the reaction is pretty much the same. Those first few months, they struggle with leaving the home that they lived in for 45 years, leaving their friends, their church, their activities. But guess what? They find all of that here as well. So I tell anyone making a big move, whether it's to Idaho or any state for that matter, give yourself time and give your family grace, because no matter how prepared you are, a move to a new state is always just as stressful. A great way to help with that adjustment is to create a bucket list of things you want to do and see in that new city. If you happen to be relocating to the Treasure Valley, I am happy to provide you with a bucket list of great things to do around the valley, day trips, restaurants to try. It can add a little adventure to the move and ease you into your new city. For more videos about relocating to Boise, Idaho, or anywhere in the Treasure Valley, or for real estate tips in general, make sure to check out one of the other videos on the screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.